A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, respected scholar, and honored international delegates. On the behalf of our organizing committee, I welcome you all to this prestigious International Symposium 2025, where knowledge knows no borders and ideas shape the future of South Asia. Let us begin this momentous occasion by grounding our spirits in gratitude and reflection. To commence our event with spiritual grace, let us have the recitation of the Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد
शुरू अल्लाह का नाम लेकर जो बड़ा मेहरबान निहायत रहम वाला है। कहो कि वो माबूद बरहक जिसकी मैं इबादत करता हूं अल्लाह है, वो एक है। अल्लाह बेनियाज है, वो न किसी का बाप है और न किसी का बेटा, और कोई उसका हमसर नहीं।
Now, kicking off today's session, I would like to call our director, Dr. Syed Raghib Ali, Executive Director Lira, for the welcome address.
It's really heartening to see the people from around the globe with whom we have been interacting on the phones. To see them physically here in Pakistan, it's really a matter of joy and pleasure and pride for us. Honorable Chief Guest, distinguished speakers and scholars, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. A very happy good morning and warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of Lahore Institute for Research and Analysis, University of Lahore, it is both an honor and privilege to welcome you to this two-day symposium captioned 21st Century Challenges, the Future of South Asia. This symposium brings together some of the most eminent scholars, thinkers, and practitioners from across the globe to engage in meaningful dialogue on the crucial challenges and opportunities that South Asia faces in the 21st century. We are deeply grateful for your participation, and we hope that the discussions and insights shared in the next 2 days will inspire positive change and innovative solutions for the future of our region. We are particularly honored to have with us our esteemed chief guest, Mr. Javed Jabbar, former senator and federal minister. His contribution to public policy and his long-standing commitment to the progress of our country and the region have been truly commendable. We look forward to hearing his thoughts on the critical issues we will be addressing today and tomorrow. This symposium is a timely and essential initiative as it seeks to address some of the most pressing issues that our region, particularly our beloved country, Pakistan, faces in the 21st century. We have gathered here to explore and deliberate on the future of our region, focusing on the challenges that require our immediate attention and the opportunities that can shape a brighter future for all. The discussions that will unfold in the next 2 days are vital in shaping the policies and strategies that will impact generations to come. This symposium features 3 engaging and thought-provoking sessions, each focusing on the key areas that will shape the future of South Asia. Session 1 focuses on renewable energy and climate change. As climate change accelerates and energy needs continue to grow, South Asia's ability to adapt to sustainable energy solutions is more important than ever. We will explore the challenges and opportunities that renewable energy holds for the region's future. Session 2 will discuss the issues of youth empowerment. Our youth represent the future of South Asia. This session will delve into the importance of empowering the next generation, providing them with tools, education, and opportunities needed to become leaders of tomorrow. Session 3 will be covering the challenges of communication advancement. The digital age has transformed communication, and this session will address how advancements in communication technologies can be harnessed to promote greater connectivity, economic development, and social progress within South Asia. We are thrilled to have renowned speakers from around the world, along with our eminent national scholars and experts who will contribute to these important discussions. Your collective expertise and insights are crucial in helping us navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. In the coming days, we will not only seek to better understand the challenges our region faces, but also explore tangible solutions and strategies for ensuring a prosperous, sustainable, and inclusive future for South Asia. I encourage all of you to actively engage, share your insights, and network with fellow attendees, as the future of our region depends on the collective effort and collaboration of all sectors of society. Before I conclude, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and express my gratitude to the individuals and teams whose tireless efforts have made this symposium possible. First, special thanks to Mr. Siraj. Where is Mr. Siraj? Mr. Siraj is our ambassador, Lira ambassador from the Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much, sir, for connecting us to our international speakers. Your effort has been not less than these, in fact, the best one for us. Then Dr. Sapna for planning, coordination, and execution of this symposium. Your contribution has been invaluable. A word of thanks to our team members, Saman, Wajid, Hania, Qasim, Aisha, Iram, Fasiha, Laik, and Misam. If I have missed some name, so please spare me that. Their teamwork and commitment have ensured the smooth running of this event. Finally, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Madam Amara, Dean of the Student Affairs Department, for her unwavering support and guidance throughout this entire process. Above all, I am deeply indebted to Mr. Awais Rauf, our esteemed chairman, for his continuous encouragement, advice, and leadership, which have been instrumental in making this symposium a reality. Thank you once again for being part of this significant event. We hope you will find these 2 days enriching, inspiring, and motivating as we work together to address the challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. With that, I once again extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests and participants. Let us make this symposium a success and turning point for South Asia's future. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to call our first keynote speaker, Dr. Daisy William, from Australia, who has over 25 years of experience in business development and English language instruction, currently serving as ELICOS Program Director at Excelsior College, Australia. Daisy William, please.
Lahore. You didn't have your breakfast today, yeah? Good morning. I want to first acknowledge the owners, Mr. Awais Rauf and his wife, Amara, Mr. Javed Jabbar, Dr. Syed Raghab Ali, and Dr. Sapna Mumtaz. And like what you said earlier, my brother, I hope I've not offended anyone that I've not acknowledged. So today my talk is going to be on as soon as the presentation goes on, a financial management and corporate governance model for South Asia. So this research I did was in 4 parts. So the data collection was 4 parts of data collection. Purpose of this study is to explore the role of corporate financial control and governance mechanisms in the successful financial management of small not-for-profit organizations in Australia. The principles can be used in other countries. Now, a lot of you young people will go on to work in the not-for-profit sector. Now, you see, people, especially the younger ones, are looking away from just, profiteering and looking at contributing something back to society. So the not-for-profit sector is a large sector that is very important. In Australia, there are over 600,000 not-for-profits. However, one part of that sector, which small not-for-profits, are almost forgotten. And when I researched the whole world, there were so few governance mechanisms, or rather none, no literature even on small not-for-profits. This research stems from a few pressing issues in the industry that have impacted on the not-for-profit. Some of these issues are the closing down of valuable services due to a lack of funds, the constant survival mode that small not-for-profits are working under, and the difficulty in attracting skilled directors. Now, this is an example in America. This organization was founded by a Nobel Prize laureate, and it was called Hull House. It helped it helped immigrant women mainly be educated in English, in food supply. They gave them a lot of support. And because it was so well established since 1889, that it was heavily funded. And what happened is that, how many were there? 300 workers got a message, an email saying that they don't have a job anymore. So people started to question. There were bankers on the board. There were top CEOs. What happened? How did they govern the organization that it ended up having to close down? But the board said, hey, it was the financial crisis. But when they went and looked at the tax declaration in years before, they saw that it was already being badly managed financially. Currently, there's a large volume of studies for best practice and code of conduct for large not-for-profit, but limited literature specifically for small not-for-profit organizations. Now, what is a small not-for-profit? In Australia, is any turnover less than $250,000. And they have limited governance to safeguard their interests. There's no oversight. They are only required to submit a financial summary. So let's look at this scenario. One is large corporation, for-profit corporation. Small corporation, for-profit. Large not-for-profit, small not-for-profit. Now, can you see the large corporation, they have shareholders. Shareholders make their board accountable. Large companies, they have to provide audited report financials to the government. Large not-for-profit have to do audited financials. Small not-for-profit is escaping all these monitoring. They don't need to do an audit report. They don't have members because they are a not-for-profit. They do have members, they don't have owners. So can you see they are completely running under the radar? Now here comes agency theory. If you are a small company, you are the owner. So there's no conflict because the owner and the controlling body are the same. So you work towards the best interest of your organization. Unfortunately, small not-for-profit, the CEO and the board are not owners. So it's easy for them to not be good, not be accountable, not do the right things, especially if they are not required to do an audit report, they are not required to be monitored by the administering body. So these are the four, I'm not going to read out all the questions, the four research questions that came out from the study. So, do small not-for-profit have robust financial management? Do they have good governance mechanisms? Validity and reliability has to be tested and retested until we are solely working with small not-for-profit data. Because, like I told you, there's so much information on large and collective not-for-profit, but nothing for small. So the methodology I had to use, when I researched the literature, nothing. I saw maybe one in America about small not-for-profits and how to fundraise, but nothing else for small. So this group, all over the world, is escaping monitoring and being accountable. Can you go back? So since literature was void, I had to take all the ones that were already in existence for large, analyze each principle and see whether they were relevant for small. If they were not, they were discarded. If they were relevant, I accepted them. Then, using that questions, using those corporate governance principles, I turned them into questions. Then I interviewed CEOs of small not-for-profits. Then the data was analyzed using SPSS. After analyzing the data, we found significant statements. Using the significant statements, I turned into questions. And I sent out requests through ACNC. ACNC is Australian Not-for-Profit and Charities Commission. Through ACNC, I contacted member organizations, sent them an invitation to take part in an interview. I interviewed 10 organizations, and then from that, I chose one to do the case study. So you can see theoretical framework, online survey, in-depth interview to case study. And this is what I meant in the previous slide. For validity and reliability, the data was tested, retested, until we are solely talking about small not-for-profit organizations. So I used mixed methodology. So they were qualitative and quantitative. So this is the research design. So current practice, literature review, first line of inquiry, second line of inquiry, analysis of data, third line of inquiry, fourth line. From the interpretation of the findings, I wrote, because I was involved in industry as well as academia. So I'm not only an academic that does research. I was heavily involved in industry. So what I did is I didn't want to just do a research that doesn't have real life implications. So you can see the last two things there. I wrote a model of best practice for small not-for-profit organizations and also code of conduct for directors. So I've already told you what I did. We had, so the first line of inquiry is theoretical framework. I've already talked about it. Second line of inquiry, online survey. I sent through SurveyMonkey invitation to CEOs of 308 small not-for-profits. Only 127 responded. But out of that 127, 21 of them started the survey but didn't complete. So that became unusable. But from it, we found 34.42% respondent. So literature says for web interviews, surveys, and what was the other one? Web-based and postal questionnaires, if you get 20% response, it's considered valid. So mine had 34.42% response rate. So the third line of inquiry is 10 in-depth interviews. Now, a call-out was made through online platform of Australia's Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission. 12 chairpersons responded, but 2 declined at a later stage. Fourth line of inquiry, one of the case studies was very disturbed, one of the interviews was very disturbing, so I wanted to do a case study. Yeah. Findings from the 10 interviews. Look at that, findings from the 10 interviews. Problematic practices which are comparable to criminal behavior such as intimidation, harassment, mismanagement of funds, and other corrupt practices, such as putting pressure on directors to change their vote and manipulation of corporate records. 100% of the organization, it looks like a big number, 100%, but in other words, it was the 10 organizations interviewed had directors that did not know how to interpret financial record. All directors must understand how to read the financials. If not, how can they make responsible decisions? 90% of the organizations interviewed were closing down or had been in the verge of closing down. 40% of the organization were closing down that were closing down could have continued their operation if they had partnered with other organizations. Transparency, declaration of conflict of interest, confidentiality, integrity are some of the codes that the interviewees felt must be included in a code of conduct. So what I did is I asked them, I'm planning to write a code of conduct. What do you think should be included? What do you think is important having worked with your team? So, you know, the second line of inquiry survey were only to CEOs, but the interview were to chairpersons. There is a need for a code of conduct for directors that clearly stipulates consequences. So not good enough to just have code of conduct, but include in the code what is the ripple effect if you don't follow. Are there fines? Are there you disbar them as members? What happens? 80% of the organizations did not have successful director recruitment process. And look, some of the things that the chairperson said, we had rogues on the board. We hope for the best when directors are elected. We went to hell and back because of the previous board. Our board was dysfunctional. There was infighting and aggressive behavior at board meetings. Outcome, the scenario presented a weak and volatile sector that was in a precarious state. It needed much attention. Because of that, I wrote the two codes. One was Code of Conduct for Directors, and the second one was Best Practice for Small Not-for-Profits. So what was the best practice? It must have well-structured governance relationship between the chair and the CEO, because sometimes you have a board, and in small not-for-profits, you have a board, you have a CEO. You have a CEO who really makes good changes. Suddenly, someone on the board is eyeing the job of this person because it's growing financially, they have donations, whatnot. So there must be a good relationship. A board of directors of small not-for-profit must actively engage in formal evaluation of its programs and the CEO's performance. A small not-for-profit must have an effective board member recruitment and orientation, not my friend becomes the chair. Sorry, not the chair, the CEO. Not my brother is my assistant. So, you have real good structures, everyone working together. It must have a statement of mission, vision, activities. It must exercise due diligence by being informed of matters pertaining to transaction when reviewing them. Transparency was important. Now, when books are reviewed, like the financials, they must be reviewed for audit purposes too. And it's good for small not-for-profits. Even though they are not required, it's good for them to actually do the audit process. And change your auditors every 3 or 4 years so that you have new eyes looking at it. So members should be given the financial report in advance so that they can look at it. A small not-for-profit organization must meet its disclosure deadlines. Directors on not-for-profits be independent of each other. And this is an issue especially in small country towns. Oh, I play tennis with you every week. Come join my board. You can't have that. So lastly is the code of conduct. How should the board of directors behave? Exercise integrity. Be loyal to the organization. Be accountable to their members. Declare conflicts of interest. Treat others with respect. Separate governance responsibility from management role. Act fairly and equitably. Do not make public comments without the board's consent. Maintain confidentiality. So in the end, the consequences of not following was also documented. So now you have something solid for small not-for-profits. And it went through the whole rigorous data collections and reliability exercise. Then at the end, for the practitioners outside, there is a best practice, there's a code of conduct. And lastly, there are consequences. Thank you.
Now I would like to call Professor Dr. Aun Abbas as a keynote speaker who is an expert in smart grids and energy policy contributions to sustainable technology research. Please, Dr. Aun Abbas.
All right, Assalamu alaikum everyone. And I'll start with thanking the organizers of this symposium for giving me an opportunity to speak. And certainly it's glad to see delegates from everywhere and all those from abroad. They are very welcome here, and I hope you have a good time. This is like Lahore's weather, where it is getting warmer. So a lot of people from the countries with a cold weather tend to enjoy that. And the good thing is it is dry heat, so it's quite bearable if you. So I generally consider personally as a good time for Lahore when it is getting warmer and it's dry. Anyway, so, and for the rest of you here, thank you so much for showing up and giving me an opportunity to talk to you. So, what's the topic? Let me go. So today I'm going to talk about, and the topic is poverty, PV technology, and opportunities for South Asia. So that's the title of my presentation. And I realize that the program is such that we have a very limited amount of time. So I'm certainly trying to do it in a very short and pointed manner. So I have very clear message and not too many slides to show as well. So I hope I have your attention in the meanwhile. So let's go to the first one. So what is poverty? Yeah, click once, please. Poverty, can you click? So I just picked up the definition as you just generally Google is. It's said to be, poverty is said to exist when people lack the means to satisfy their basic needs. So this is poverty. And in this context, the identification of poor people first requires a determination of what constitutes basic needs. So they can't, afford they can't satisfy their basic needs. So what are basic needs? And one of the basic needs in today's context is energy. Right? It is one need because societies are actually, fueled by energy, their economies, their personal lives, and all. For example, this cell phone which we all love, it's all based on energy, right? With no energy, no cell phones. So, and this is something which goes everywhere, from the poorest in society to the richest in society. So yeah, so energy is actually a necessity in today's. And in South Asia, we continue to experience energy poverty. And I think energy is around for more than 100 years. And this poverty has been around for more than 100 years as well. We are very populous nations in South Asia, and poverty is a very serious issue that we all experience here. Okay. And my point of this whole, topic today is to emphasize the value of PV technology, which I believe is a very clear opportunity to eliminate energy poverty in South Asia and elsewhere. So what I'm going to suggest, of course, it's meaningful in the context of South Asia, but wherever else is the poverty, it is meaningful there too. That's the other point. Let's move forward. So the first one, please come down. So what happens is, we generally have some structure of what we call utilities in any country. This is generally a regulated sector. We have a regulatory authority, and we have generators, we have transmitters, or what we call transmission, high voltage transmission, companies which provide transmission of power from the generating sources to the consumption centers. Similarly, we have what is called distribution companies, which actually distribute power to the end users. Now, of course, governments recognize that there are poor people who should be able to have access to energy, and they also recognize that they are poor. So we tend to have, as a policy thing everywhere, what we call a very basic user, and we tend to subsidize the cost of energy that they pay. And generally they are defined as those users who spend or consume about 100 to 200 units a month. In Pakistan nowadays, they are paying about, for example, 8 rupees a unit. So a lot of us tend to experience this 42, 47 rupees, which have been in the media lately, some new proposals that are coming up from a regulatory perspective. And that's true. My bill average is about 50 rupees with all the taxes, 50 to 60, it varies. So it is pretty expensive. But the basic user is still getting, through subsidies, a very cheap game. Okay. But there is an availability issue too. It's not just about the cost. So we do have sufficient generation capacity, but a lot of that is based on oil and what we call fossil fuel based. Prices go up and down, so does the generation costs. As a result, sometimes cost is so high. And that was about 13 years ago when I started my own energy company, realizing that solar is an answer to those issues. So I have a very personal experience as well. Although I'm at a university as a professor, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a company on the side. So we develop technologies right here and try to find and solve these solutions, problems and solutions to our industry. So what is the issue? Sometimes we have the capacity to generate, but not having the capacity as a nation to buy at a very high rate and then sell at a lower rate. So this is one of the issues that IMF negotiation, this and that, balance of, what we call transfer. We have less exports, more imports, and we don't have enough dollars as a nation to pay our import bills. So one of the things they do is they cut on generation, reduce generation. As a result, what we have is a load shedding. Load shedding is a phenomenon everywhere in countries like Pakistan and many others in South Asia. And this issue impacts, in terms of the social segments that we deal with, disproportionately to the poorer people, those in poverty. So when it comes to, how we do the load shedding, so I remember in 2012 and 13, when the barrel price of oil was more than $100, about 120, 130. In Pakistan, we used to have, in urban areas, 12 hours of load shedding. So we'll have electricity for 1 hour, next hour you won't. And in rural areas, and in some poor areas, this load shedding was up to 20 to 22 hours. So look at it from the perspective of the CEO of a distribution company who is asked to provide profitability, and he has all these issues. So where he's going to do the shutdown with the limited amount of energy available? To the one who is getting the subsidy, not the one who is paying the bill. Common sense, it's an economic argument. But there is a social equity issue as well, that, they are less than an equal citizen as well in their eyes, the way they get treated. So this is the background in which I said, how could we solve this problem, right? So, okay, so, next one, please. Okay, what is the upside of the PV technology? And it is its independence from costly inputs. So when we talk about PV, it is the light, given free by the nature that we use to generate the power. So we don't need to pay for the barrel of kerosene oil or the bill for the natural gas or whatever, right? So input is free. All you need is some capital investment to have the equipment to translate that light energy into electrical energy, right? And so it's green nature of generation as well, because sustainability and all of that, We are very proud, that we, in the last 200 years, we had industrial revolution. All the problems we are facing today is because of that interesting revolution. Because we have built cities which we can't sustain. We have built, we do mining, we just exhausting our water resources here and there. We are consumers, but we don't do consumption with a view to sustainability. And we have been talking, at least for the last 20 years, we have these SDGs and we talk about those, but I only see talk. But doesn't mean things have not changed. But they have not changed necessarily because of the policy or very well thought and coordinated efforts globally. It is just the natural selection For example, 13 years ago when I started my energy business, I imported, and I may have been the first solar energy company in Pakistan dedicated to that purpose. So I imported panels from China in 2012. And I know the cost per watt at that time was about 68 cents, US cents per watt. Guess what is the cost of per watt solar panel today? It's less than 10 cents. It's about 7, 8 cents. So look at it in 10 and 12 years, the cost of that has come down to just 10% of what it was just 12 years ago. Right? Look at the solar inverter, the second essential element for a solar system. Right? I can share with you the cost of that, about the same size product, used to be about $500. Today, that is available in $150 or less. 100 to 150 is the range. So we are looking at cost coming down on the PV inverter side about 1/4 that it was more than a decade ago. So what does it mean? Affordability. And that's something which caused a big impact in Pakistan. Last year, we imported about 18 gigawatts. We were perhaps the third or fourth largest in the world. So there is some good name we actually earned. But do you think it's because of the government policy? Yes, to some extent, because there is no custom duty and there is no even GST. So if you import solar panels, this is there is not even additional cost to that 8 cents per watt other than the transportation. So yes, it facilitates. So Pakistan has really adopted solar, and it's really become an interesting model, even for our Chinese friends, the companies there who really do the product. They generally say that if your product goes to the Pakistani market and succeeds in both ways. Well, there is one commercial success. The other is technical success. They say that it is very harsh environment because it gets very hot in summers. It has very soon you will see a lot of dust particles in the air. So all the worst thing that electronics can have, you have it here. And they say that if your product works in Pakistan, it should work anywhere in the world. So there is a lot of respect for us as a consumer, at least even in other countries who supply us. So where is the problem though? The adoption of PV technology in any country, particularly South Asia, is a function of, again, the biggest issue is capital cost. My operational cost is virtually none because input is the light. But I need to have panels up front. I need to have a, inverter up front. I need to have some structure up front. I need to have some wiring up front. I need to have some storage up front. And I'm a poor man. Where does the money come from? So who benefits then? Where did that 18 gigawatt or maybe 25 gigawatt of solar power already installed in Pakistan, who owns it? And you will find there are some 300,000, middle class, rather upper middle class people who are enjoying the benefit of it. And we have this policy called net metering, and they are just, happy with it. And who is saving and getting the most out of it? Who could afford the expensive electricity? Well, they have the capacity to save, and the poor guy who's on a subsidy cannot. How do we solve this problem? That's what I suggest, and next slide is the last slide, and that's my suggestions. Okay. So I say that see these small consumers as a capital asset for the nation. The poor people know they still can be capitalized. Who can provide space to erect small PV power plants? Oh, kahin na kahin, they live somewhere, they have a space. However small, they can put up few panels because they have a space. Okay, so first of all, they are not useless at all. They can be useful. So first assumption. Then where the money comes from? Where it came everywhere. In 2006, in Ontario, Canada, the province had a program, what we call feed-in tariff. While on my electricity bill, I was getting, or I was paying about 6 to 7 cents a unit for the consumption I was doing. The feed-in tariff, they were buying, if you generate on solar, they were giving you more than 50 cents for the same unit. This is the program. This is how they promoted so-called green energy, and this is about 20 years ago. Feed-in tariffs are generally gone. Net metering is very common. Okay? But even though it was 50 cents, what was the rationale why they should be giving at 50 cents? The idea was that ROI should be at least 6 years. The life of the project is 20 plus years. And they had to have a 50 cents a unit to give away so that they can get the return on their capital investment from in 5 years, 6 years. And where the money is coming from, it used to take some $50,000 to put up a, at that time, 15, 20 kilowatt. And they were, but these societies are what we call bankable societies. I was a poor student on a scholarship in Canada at one time. I could still get a credit card. In Pakistan, I am a rich man, still they will be asking a lot of questions. They don't trust. This is the problem we have, and this is the problem we need to solve. Those societies gave you money, the banks and all of that. And the collateral was the equipment itself. And there you go, gigawatts were installed. That model needs to be replicated, that's the only way. The funding has to come from somewhere. So in our case, or in South Asia, in any country which has dynamics similar to ours, needs to provide this, capital alone. In Pakistan and a lot of other South Asian companies and so many so-called developing nations, one of the way to entice investment is what we call BOT model. Build, operate, transfer. Who builds? The one who invests. Who operates? The one who invests. And where it gets transferred to? It gets transferred to the nation, to the, the distribution company. I call it loan-to-own PV program. What does that mean? You get a loan from the bank, and you pay off the loan based on the cost of electricity. Even if it was cheaper, you pay back your loan because you save on your bill. And ultimately, who owns it? The poor guy owns it, instead of the distribution company. Now, the question is, how come the National Bank of Pakistan or Habib Bank of Pakistan, all these banks would be interested to give loans? That's exactly where policy comes in. You force them. You tell them everybody has it. And these are small loans, not very large, 100,000, 150,000, okay? And they will take interest, so it is a sensible business model for them. They will make money out of it. They loan it, they get it back with some profit. But the problem that we have as a banking sector is, where is the collateral? Oh, gentlemen, that particular equipment is the collateral. Okay, what if gets lost? So, okay, get an insurance on it. So it is possible. If there is a will, there is a way. But what you are doing in this model is that you are not neglecting the poor, the poverty guy. You are seeing them as an asset, and you find a way to get them to contribute. So that's all I had to say. Thank you so much.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, you can see the name is actually Chinese, but I'm Chinese Muslim. That's why I give salam. Right. So we're waiting for the slide. Have been enjoying Lahore so far. Yesterday, have a exciting ride on the rickshaw. Experienced the traffic in Lahore as well. So basically what we're going to talk about today is about generative AI. I have been given 10 minutes, so I've tried to squeeze in everything. And I just noticed that we have, different types of audience. We have academics and we have students as well. So I try to kind of like fit in everything, right? Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is basically an ongoing project that we're working on, focusing on higher educations, looking into how to actually integrate generative AI into higher educations. Of course, at this stage is within our institutions itself. So for those who are not aware, I do not know what is generative AI, I'll give you a quick example, which is ChatGPT, right? So we say ChatGPT is actually an application of generative AI. And generative AI basically is different from the traditional AI, where traditional AIs, they focus on doing, for example, predictions, right? So I give you an image to the AI model, it will predict whether it's a dog or a cat, a male or female, for example. But generative AI, we focus on producing content. For example, you use ChatGPT to, let's say, for students, generate an essay for their assignment, right? Or we generate image, videos, and so on. Okay, so let's move back to our topic there, right? So basically, I always see South Asia as, not just a region, right? We see it as a crucible where immense skill meets unprecedented disruptions. So if we look into some of the statistics that we have, this one is back in 2019, where it says more than half of South Asian youth are not on track to have the education and skill necessary for employment in 2030, right? This is back in 2019, even before we have the technologies of generative AI. And the contradictions here is that it also says that South Asia has the largest youth labor force in the world, with nearly 100,000 young people entering the labor market each day. So the question now is how we can actually bridge the gap, right? We have, youth which are not have skill enough, okay, to meet the labor market. And the challenge is even compound with the what we call as the boom of generative AI, right? So it makes the higher educations in general much more challenging. And we know that generative AI, just like any other tools or any other technologies, back then, people claim that, for example, when we have Microsoft Excel is going to replace accountant. We have, for example, internet. Internet changed the way that we live. And now we have generative AI, basically ChatGPT, and some others product, Google Gemini and so on. It basically changed the way that we work. And just like any other technologies, it has a pro and cons, right? There are some things that we can utilize, but also we need to use it with care. So if we look into some of the literature that we have, people are actually looking into this. How actually the role of generative AI and the pro and cons of generative AI within the context of higher education. Next. So what I'm going to share with you here is I'm going to highlight one pro, or one of the advantages of generative AI within the context of, from my past experience. So what we're currently doing here, for example, if you can see, can you scroll up a little bit? Is actually how we use generative AI. As you can see from the right-hand side, there is how you can use generative AI to draft a rubric, assessment rubric. Okay, so what we're doing here is whenever we create an assessment from the point of view of an educator, we need to make sure that we have certain Bloom taxonomy to comply. We need to comply with, within the context Malaysia will be the Malaysian qualification framework. So using generative AI, previously without this technology, is really challenging for us to, draft this assessment rubric. So with the power of generative AI, we can easily use that. As you can see from that example, is we use Google Gemini Pro 2.5. To create or draft assessment rubric for us easily, given the requirements of the assessment that we need to have. Apart from that, this is, as you can see, one of the initiatives that we are doing within within UNISA itself, our local university, where we always try to equip our lecturers with the knowledge of using generative AI in their teaching and learning process. And for that specifically is we teach them how to use, or we share with them how to use Google Notebook LM. That's another generative AI tools to speed up their teaching and learning. Right, next. But of course, as I said just now, it comes with some challenges, comes with some limitations. So as you can see, there are a lot of limitations on the current generative AI model. Okay, so for example, one of it is, let's say, let's talk about ChatGPT. And we know that ChatGPT came from OpenAI, which is a company in the US. So mainly, they are trained on Western data, right? So the AI model itself, they're trained on Western data. So will there be any bias if it's going to apply within the context, for example, South Asia? Is it possible for us to develop our own model as, for example, not only Malaysia, South Asia, work together to develop a model or AI model that suit our context? So this is a question, this is a thing that we can actually explore. Right, next. So based on the very quick advantages and disadvantages that I have talked about, so there are a few things that actually we can explore, we can look into. So the first is we need to ensure that all the higher education institute in South Asia, because today we are focusing on South Asia, are AI ready. Right? We are ready to embrace the technologies of AI. So how we can actually do that first is we need to develop AI literacy. So when we say we develop AI literacy, it's not only for the students itself, it's also for the educators as well. So not only the students need to know how to use AI in their learning process ethically, we also need to ensure that we as educators know how to use AI to try to make our, for example, learning much more interesting. So there are also a lot of tools currently, for example, on how AI can be used for personalized learning to cater the different needs of learners, for example. That will be the first. And if you look into this framework here, it's not that clear. This is one of the examples that we are currently working on, one of the projects that we're currently working on in our local institute, our local university, where we try to explore how we can integrate AI literacy in the teaching and learning of programming subject, because I'm from the background of computer science. So basically, we came up with a framework with 4 main components. We call it as IEEC, right? The first I stand for introduce. So we introduce to the students about AI, no matter what subject they are taking. So it can be they're taking programming. In this context, they're taking programming. So we introduce them to AI within the context of programming. Even now, we have something called AI-assisted programming. Means you are not writing programs from scratch. You are using AI technologies to help you in writing programming. So the same can be applied to other subjects, let's say English, right? So how AI can be used to help the learners in learning English, for example, is something that we can explore. And the second E is encourage. So we encourage them to integrate AI in their learning process. So for these specific subjects in my lab notes, I always ask them to use AI to help them. So for example, there will be a lab activities, I ask them to work on it themselves, and then I will ask them to put in the same questions into generative AI tools, ask them to compare the result between both of it. So from that process, actually, we try to train the students in terms of their critical thinking. They can compare the result between what they have done and what have been produced by the AI tools, right? So that will be one of the examples we encourage them. So we are not in the stand of, stopping them from using the AI tools. So we are going for the mood of kind of like encouragement. The third one is evaluation. It's something very challenging to do. So there's some research that talking about how to use or how to introduce AI-proof assessment, right? How we can actually create assessment that is AI-proof, that cannot be done by AI. So previously, for example, if we ask them to do a recording, video presentation, there's something that cannot be done by AI yet, right? So maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, this can be done. So we need to keep up to date with that. So IEE, and the final one is C, control. So control is we need to teach the students or share with students how to use AI ethically. So not about stopping them, we encourage them, but we need to have the control mechanism there. So for example, in my assessment as well, I will ask them to keep a list of the prompt they have used to complete their assessment. So I encourage them to use AI. So for example, ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT everything, but you need to keep the prompt, the question that you ask ChatGPT, and you need to share that with me. So actually there's features in ChatGPT that can allow us to do that. So with that, we can actually kind of like introduce or integrate AI into the teaching and learning process. So within my context here is specifically on programming subject. So of course, we open to any collaborations or anything that look into how these AI integrations or this framework can be applied to some other subjects. As I said, for example, teaching English. And of course, this lead to the second point, which is foster collaborative innovation. So we need to work together. It's not only Malaysia. As we say, we are focusing on South Asia. We can look into different institutions, different countries, how the same framework can be applied differently, whether it can be generalized or not. And finally, one of the things, of course, is not the role as educators, maybe it's more towards policymakers or the governments, thinking about how to invest in equitable infrastructure, and also think about, come up with the policy of using AI ethically in higher education. So talking about the equitable infrastructure, so actually, just like any other technologies, this will cause digital divide. So for example, now the simple model in ChatGPT, it costs $20 per month for subscriptions. And if you want to subscribe to the much more advanced model, it costs you $200. So if I'm a rich student, then I can go for, I can pay for a better model, right? Okay. So I think that's it. So for the final one, we have been talking about, AI. We have been talking about technologies. We have been talking about the policy, the framework itself. But the most important thing is about the people, right? So what we want to focus on is we want to embrace AI and empower people. Thank you very much.